I'm on here today. It's my Sunday afternoon. Y'all know on Sundays I come out here and I'm always talking about mindset and your money. I'm always talking about the real reason why you're broke, why you're living paycheck to paycheck, and how to step out of that cycle. Hey, Christine, how are you? And so today is no different. I am going to be on here today and we're going to talk about why poverty is your real enemy and how breaking free is not just financial, it's spiritual. Because the truth is, poverty is spiritual. It's not just a financial lesson. How I step it? Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yep. I love it when I see people that are coming back that are hearing or that hear my message and that it resonates with them. I do absolutely appreciate you always stepping in and talking with me, engaging in the comments. I absolutely love talking with you all as well. And I love seeing regular faces. So thanks for listening in. Like I said, we're going to talk about how staying broke might actually be disobedience. And I know that's a big unpopular opinion. And I'm going to break it down for you so that it makes sense. But the truth is, God did not call us to be broke. He did not call us to live in poverty. Poverty is a mindset. And it's a mindset of lack that's keeping you stuck. And the only way to shift it is to, number one, understand the mindset. And number two, do the work to shift and understand the principles of abundance. Because abundance is more than money. I think of abundance as nothing missing, nothing lacking, nothing broken. So you have everything you need. So you don't have to worry about where your next dollar is coming from. You don't have to worry about your relationships. Your relationships are always abundant. Everybody that needs to be in your life in that moment is exactly where they need to be. You have more than enough resources to get everywhere you need to be. But once again, this is a mindset. And if you are focused on poverty, you can't even begin to shift out of that mindset because you're too busy focusing on what you don't have. And so, like I said, today we are going to talk about how staying broke might actually be disobedience. And I would love to teach you all something new today. I always bring lots of value to what I'm talking about. So if this resonates with you, be sure to tap the screen, share the live. I'm going to ask questions as I go along so that you can understand. And I like to engage. I like to speak with you all. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to start talking about, like I said, how staying broke might actually be disobedience. So we're going to talk Bible, mindset, and practical steps to get free. Go ahead, tap the screen because, like I said, I want to get this out there to as many people as possible. But what I want you to understand is struggling forever, that's not God's will. He never intended for us to struggle. And I can prove it to you. How I like to break it down and prove it to you is that his concept of where he wanted man to live was in a garden. Think about that. What is the purpose of a garden? It's to produce. And thank you so much for the likes. I appreciate it. Self-concept and mindset. I appreciate you. But when he put man on this earth, he put them in a garden. And the whole purpose of that garden, when he said it, he said, you can have anything in here. Anything you want is yours. Just don't touch this one tree. And by putting man in the garden, he basically said, I want you to be fruitful, multiply, have dominion, right? I'm paraphrasing a lot here. But when you think about a garden, when you have one, what do? Whatever is produced, you use, but whatever you produce produces a seed so that you can plant and have more. And if he wanted people to be in a garden where you're able to produce, so you're able to be sustained by the fruits of the garden, and then that garden also produces more by you planting the seeds, then why would we think that he doesn't want us to have an abundant life? Why would we think that he wants us to live in poverty? That was his whole plan. He never actually intended for us to leave the garden. The reason we left is because of the fact that we got focused on the wrong thing. The enemy, Satan, was able to go in and draw Eve's focus to what she didn't have. Yeah, looking for the one thing, and exactly. Always looking for that one thing that we don't have and losing focus on everything that we do have, because the world is so completely abundant. There is more than enough resources across this entire earth. Thank you for tapping the screen and sharing, everybody. But there are more than enough resources across this earth. And if we are focused on what we don't have, we miss the mark. And that's really all sin is. It's just missing the mark and saying that I'm not following in the concepts that God laid out for me. I missed the mark. And then when we repent and turn away, that's when we start to get back on task. But I digress. I got off on the side here. But what I really want to focus in on is, what were you taught about money in growing up? Because that, to me, is the real question here. A lot of times, what I have seen from other people is they were taught that they lacked resources. They were taught that there wasn't enough to go around. And so we bring that concept of what we were taught into our adulthood, and then we end up missing what is actually abundantly there. Is that resonating with anybody? Do y'all agree that that is exactly what you were taught, where you came in or you grew up and maybe it was your mom, maybe it was your dad, maybe it was your caregiver that was like, we can't afford this. We don't have enough to handle this. We can only do so much. So those are all examples of limiting beliefs that keep us stuck in a poverty mindset. And poverty, like I said, as I started this out, it's your real enemy, and it's not just financial, it's spiritual, because poverty has a spirit. And let me ask y'all something. When we go to, I'm gonna just call a spade a spade. When you go to the hood, do you recognize that everybody in the hood has almost like an energy or a mindset about them that is very similar? Or is it just me? Let me know in the comments. If you've ever gone from, say, a rich neighborhood to a poor neighborhood and noticed that there is a complete shift in how the people interact, in how they speak to you, how they look at you, all of those things. Do y'all agree? Let me know in the comments. I see y'all in there. Do y'all agree that when you live in so when you go into a wealthy neighborhood or even just a middle class neighborhood, the one thing I noticed coming from the hood to a middle class neighborhood is your neighbors actually wave and speak to you. I grew up in Detroit, and maybe it was just Detroit, but I feel like this is everywhere. I grew up in Detroit, and when you were out and about in your neighborhood, you didn't look at nobody, you didn't speak, you kept your head down and you minded your own business. And then I moved to the South. I moved to Tennessee, and we went from a poor neighborhood to a middle class neighborhood in that move. Next thing I knew, the neighbors were waving at me, and I looked at my mom. I said, why are they waving at me? Why? I don't understand. Why are they being so nice? I don't know them. And my mom just kind of looked at me, and I was like, are you not uncomfortable with this? Because I didn't understand. So have any of you all ever experienced that, where you left the poor area and the vibe is completely different? That's because poverty is more than just a word or a lack. It's a spirit, it's a mindset. That mindset says, if you have more than me, we got a problem. Or it's the crab in the barrel mentality that says, I gotta cut you down because you can't have more than me. So you got a big screen TV over here. I'm gonna go ahead and steal it or find a way to break it or whatever. Or the other side of that is I'm gonna be jealous that you have it and talk down to you about you thinking you're bigger and badder than me just because you got that flat screen TV or just because you got that nice car. Y'all agree? Because I feel like that happens a lot in impoverished communities. You can't have more than me because if you have more than me, that means you're better than me. That's a mindset. That is a mindset. And it's why a lot of people stay stuck in poverty. That's why they stay stuck living paycheck to paycheck. That's why they stay stuck not living a life of freedom because they're so busy trying to pull everybody back down instead of rising up. But when you step out of that mindset, what will happen is you'll be able to start to see how other people live. And I'm here to tell you, wealthy people, they don't care if you have a nice TV. They don't care if you drive a nice car, and they aren't withholding anything from you. Withholding is lack mentality. Gatekeeping is lack mentality, because the truth is, if they give you the keys, if as a wealthy person, we are not afraid to tell you how to get wealthy, because the truth is most people, even with the steps, even with the tools, they won't follow them anyway because they're too busy letting their mind keep them stuck. So if you hang around wealthy people, and actually, when I think about it, and I never thought about this until I started to really do some research. I grew up around wealthy people. I went from living in the hood to living around wealthy people. My mom was still a single mom with 3 kids, but she had friends that leveled up, and they had achieved a level of wealth. And we were middle class, but some of her friends were very wealthy. Yep, it's enough to go around, so share. And when I started to spend time with her friends and their children, they never withheld anything. Never withheld anything. Oh, you want some? Here, you can have it. Oh, some of these families that I hung out with, they taught me how to actually generate real wealth. And if I had been smart when I was younger, I probably would have followed up on what they were telling me, because they were teaching their kids. And because I was there, I learned it by default. I'd be a heck of a lot further down the road with my wealth journey had I listened to them when I was a teenager. No lie. Because they told me, invest your money. They told me you need to put 10% aside for savings every single time. They would say, they were Christian people. So 10% to God, 10% in savings. So 20% off the rip, you pay yourself first. You pay God and you pay yourself first. And then they actually helped me get set up with a money market account so that I could invest in it. My problem was I wasn't wise enough to understand to put the money in it. I started it a little bit, but then it got tight and I cut it off, not understanding the power of compound interest. That's a whole other conversation. But they didn't gatekeep. Back to the point, they did not gatekeep and think that if they told me the secret to wealth, that there wouldn't be enough for them. Because there are more than enough resources in this earth. God did not design this earth for you to be broke. He designed it for abundance. And if you are willing to focus on the good that is all around you, all the good will flow to you, because it can't help to, because it's an energy, it's a currency, it flows. It flows. If whatever you dominantly focus on, you will have. Always, always, always. Whatever you dominantly focus on, you'll have. So if you are so busy focusing on what you don't have, think the poverty mindset, think living with limited beliefs, living like there's not enough to go around, that's what's always going to show up. And I've had many examples of that being true. So if you can't get this in check first, you're never, ever, ever going to actually step into the next level, because this will always keep you stuck. Because what the word says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Out of the abundance of the mouth, or out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. There we go. So I get the words right. And if you are so busy focusing on the lack, that's what's going to come out of you. Every single time. Every single time. So now that we understand that poverty is a mindset, not a personality trait, let's start attacking what it looks like. Thinking we're staying humble, or thinking that broke means we're humble. Think about that. Have you ever been like, you know what? I'm just so humble. I don't need to have all of this. I don't need that nice thing. I might want it, but I don't. You actually, I think a lot of people think that humbleness is denying that they even want the nice thing. I will submit that. Y'all can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people think that being humble is, I don't need that nice thing. I'm so good with what I have. As long as I have my basic needs, if I can eat and just have a roof over my head, everything is fine. But denying the fact that they want that Coach bag, that Gucci purse, whatever. I don't know, that car. I'm making stuff up as I go. But I think that a lot of people think that by pretending that they don't want it and staying humble means that they are close to godliness. And that's not true. What is actually true is that poverty is an oppressor. It keeps you focused on survival, so you never step into your full calling. Survival mode means that you can't think past living, doing the bare minimum. So I wake up, I'll give you an example of what it looked like when I was in survival mode. When I was in survival mode, all I could do was make sure that I woke up on time, I got my kids to school, I made it to work, I did my job, I fed my kids, and I went to bed maybe. Because there were times where I was so stuck in survival that I was just focused on what I didn't have and trying to figure it out and just depressed, or looking at the television, letting it tell me a vision of what I want my life to be instead of doing. Because that's what a television is. It is keeping you focused on someone else's vision so that you aren't actually out there working the vision that you have for yourself or that God has for you. That's what survival mode looks like. You can't think outside of autopilot. What's next? What do I have to accomplish to just survive to the next day? And when you are in survival mode, there is no possible way for you to even begin to step into your full calling. And it keeps you stuck in poverty. And the enemy loves that. He loves it. Because it says in the Bible, the enemy comes but to steal, kill, and destroy, right? If you are in survival mode, he has killed your creativity. He has killed your ability to be aware of what's going on around you. He has destroyed the identity that God has given you. That's what he's done. He's like I said, he's done exactly what he said. Steal, kill, and destroy, because God didn't call us to live in survival. It says in Deuteronomy that it's 28:12, you will lend to many nations but borrow from none. That's what God wants of us. He wants us to be the lender and not the borrower. So I know if anybody grew up in any kind of church, I feel like the scripture was constantly quoted. That number one, that you are a slave to the oppressor. So I'm the lender and not the borrower, always. And then John 10:10 is a thief comes but to steal, kill, and destroy. So I already said that one. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of my notes. But have you ever felt like you're doing everything right and still struggling? Let me know in the comments. And I'm asking, yep. And I'm asking because I've been you. Like I'm not asking because it's just this question to get you all engaged. I'm asking because I have been you. I've lived the paycheck to paycheck cycle. I have been the mom who's in survival mode, just trying to figure out how I'm going to get through the end of the day and hope that I get some sleep. I've been the person who feels like they know what they're supposed to do, but doesn't have the energy or the ability to actually do it. And I'm here to tell you, more than anything is that it doesn't have to stay that way. You don't have to live that way. I have stepped out of it, and you can see, like, that's not a digital background. That's my house. I was intentional about stepping out of survival mode and stepping into a life of financial freedom so that my children didn't have to repeat the same cycles that I watched my mom repeat and that I started the road down before I got the revelation. And just to give you a little bit more about who I am, I'm an accountant by trade. So I went to school for accounting. I have worked with multiple Fortune 500 companies. I have watched but my responsibilities in those roles was to understand where their money was coming and going from and make sure that we knew the profitability of an organization, because that's really the whole purpose of being an accountant. But what I learned from that was that these businesses are running, there's a few principles that they're running off of that keep them profitable. Number one, they might have a budget. Don't get me wrong, because a budget is the plan, right, for how you plan to show up in life. But they also have this thing called a forecast, right? The budget is what the accountants are responsible for. Did we align to that budget? Did everything go into the correct buckets and they know exactly what they're supposed to do with it? But then you have what they call a sales forecast or a business forecast. And in that forecast, what they are doing is they are projecting based on the goals and the plans they set up for this organization to run. How do we achieve that? It's not done yet, but they wrote the plan. They did Habakkuk 2 and 2. They wrote the vision and they made a plan. These are my goals for this quarter, for this half, for this year, for the 5 years, however long they're forecasting it out, right? They create this forecast and they follow it. So they have the budget to tell them how they're doing against it. But the forecast is, this is our plan. We are writing it out, and we are communicating from the top. We can't say anything. From the top down, how we are going to achieve this plan. That's how a business runs. And if you don't have a vision written down, and if you don't have a plan, you're in survival mode. You are being tossed to and fro and have no idea where you're going. But you can stop. You can stop today. You can stop the cycle today. And how do you do that? You do that by, number one, pay yourself first. I said it at the beginning of the live, and I meant it. Every single time I get paid, I put money aside for me. And I'm not talking about money to go and spend. I'm talking about putting that money aside in my emergency fund, if it's not fully funded, in my investment accounts, so that my money can continue to grow. Because you see the title of this live, if I can grab it, whatever. The real reason why you're broke, and it's not what you think. The real reason you're broke is because you don't understand the purpose of money. The real reason you're broke is because you think that every time you get paid, the purpose of your money is to pay your bills, and that's all. Am I right? Let me know in the comments if that's what you were taught money means. I want to know. Thank you for the rose, Micah. Or Mika. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, Micah or Mika. But if that's what you were taught, then you were taught wrong. And I'm sorry to say it that way, but you were taught wrong. You were taught the poverty version of money. The version that keeps you stuck in the cycle. The version that tells you to just follow the system that they laid out for you. Because remember, at the end of the day, there's a reason that there's a top 5% and then there's the rest, there's the 95%, right? It is easier to control the 95% if you teach them a system and tell you that this is how you're supposed to do it. And most of us, because we go through the school system, hey, Lovey TT, how you doing? Most of us, because we are going through the school system, we're taught that you go to school, you graduate, you go to college, you get a job, and you live to pay your bills. If you're good enough, if you make enough money, go ahead and go on vacation using Afterpay or with a credit card. Every year you get one vacation because you get about 2 weeks a year. So you're going to go and take your 2 weeks, have an experience, most likely on credit, and then you're going to spend the rest of the year paying it off so that you can feel like you lived a good life. That's the middle class. That's how the middle class is taught. The poverty side of it, where you broke, they were taught, have a couple kids, use the government to help you come up. Because I've seen family members that do that too. And I'm not saying everybody does that. But if you're living in a poverty mindset and a poverty mentality, you were taught, let's rely on the government. It's Uncle Sam's job to take care of you. That's the reason those resources are there. And they did it on purpose. They did it on purpose to make you beholden to them so that they can control you. Because it's easy to control mob mentality, mass thinking, than it is to have somebody who understands the real purpose and break free. But as I said before, there are more than enough resources in this world. And if everybody wanted to be a millionaire, which I don't think everybody wants to or needs to be a millionaire, but everybody does need to be a good steward. But if they wanted to, everybody on this earth could be a millionaire. But then they can't be controlled. And then that's where the government and I won't even say the government, because the government's a pawn too. That's my take. That's my hot take, and I'll leave it at that. Y'all, I love sci-fi. I feel like, and y'all may or may not relate to this, but I feel like when you see those futuristic TV shows where the corporations are the ones that are in control, I think we kind of are already there. But what has happened is the government still has a semblance of control. And so it's almost like they're just pulling the strings in the background. And I'm sure my live is probably going to get suppressed for me saying all this, but it's fine. But I just want you to, I want to spit some free game to you. And I'm not saying that you can't break out of the cycle. I'm not saying you can't, because they aren't, wealthy people aren't keeping you stuck. They're just relying on the education system for you not to know. So if you don't know, you can't fix what you don't know, right? Or you can't change what you don't know. And so that's why I say, I don't think it's a bad thing that you aren't wealthy, but let me backtrack so I'm saying this clear. I don't think everybody is meant to be millionaires, but I think that God just wanted everybody to not be beholden to another man, because he said it in the Bible. He wanted us to have the talents that he gave us so that we can live a life of freedom. Because if we're too busy being bogged down by being a slave to somebody, how are we supposed to worship him and see that he's the good God that he is? It's just my thoughts. I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but that's how I see it. I see it as God was like, I need you to know that I am the all-powerful God, the one who provides everything for you. And so if I'm providing everything for you, then you don't have to worry about anybody else. But we got it backwards when we stepped out of the garden. We focused on what we didn't have, which got us put out of the garden, which then began to shift us into a lack mentality, and where we have to be beholden to someone else, whoever has the most resources. Because you see it throughout history over and over again. Whoever had the most resources had the most power. Just saying. But yeah, so getting back to it, I do want to point this out. You might be in sin if you're broke. And this is also another unpopular opinion, but it's not because you're poor. It's because you're ignoring what you know to do. If you read your Bible at all, God does not shy away from wealth. Do you know what he says about Abram? Abraham? I think he said it before it was Abraham. I think it was Abram. God spoke to Abram because when he describes Abram in the Bible, It wasn't because he was rich. So let me paraphrase. Let me say this correctly. What he did when he described who Abram was in the Bible, he said he was very rich. And then he begins to tell you he was very rich with cattle and I forget. He named off a few different things in that list. Cattle was one of them, resources of some sort. I think it was, gold and cattle. That's what it was. It was gold and cattle. So if God wanted us to be broke, why would he number one say that Abraham was very rich with gold and cattle? I'm just throwing that out there. So we're focused on the wrong thing. We were taught that we're supposed to be humble. We're supposed to be broke because God wants us to be humble. That ain't what he said. That's what you were taught. But what he actually said was he was very rich. And that even when he began to lead him and guide him, I'm going to take you into a land that's flowing with milk and honey. Milk and honey are, back then, expensive resources. Resources because they provide sustenance for people. I know we don't see it, milk and honey, as something that is a big deal now because we live in a world where everything's processed. But back then, you had to have money to buy that stuff. So it's flowing with milk and honey. So that was a rich nation. So if God designed for us to be rich and he even spelled out what it takes to be rich in the Bible, why do we feel like we have to be broke? Why do we feel like we are wrong, or what's the word I'm looking for? Out of alignment or sinning if we got money in the bank? Y'all tell me. I want to know. All right, so let's be real. If God gave you wisdom, strategy, and opportunity, and you still choose to stay in the same broke cycle, you're not in alignment. You're in disobedience. The question was, why would God spell out what he defines as wealthy in the Bible and then expect us to stay humble and broke? When he describes his people as wealthy. So he described Abraham as very rich with cattle and gold. It says it in the Bible. I want to say it in Genesis, maybe it's either 12 or 18. I can't remember off the top of my head. And when he talks about moving his people into the promised land, it's flowing with milk and honey. Those are luxurious resources that are hard they are expensive to buy during that time. So if he is saying that these things are what I want to give to you, and he wants us to live a wealthy life, why do we think being humble and saying that I just need to make sure I have food and a roof over my head, why do we think that that's okay? Sorry, that was a long-winded way to explain it. I'm Miss Jackie. But that goes back to the statement I made before. Let's be real. If God gave you wisdom, strategy, and opportunity, and you still choose to stay in the same cycle of broke, are you in alignment, or are you operating in disobedience? The way one was raised? Yeah. But that goes back to what I was saying. We were raised to perpetuate the system, the cycle, right? So that cycle of continuing to do what they told us, go to school, get a degree, work a job, and maybe have a vacation once a year, right? It's control, it's power and control, but it's also keeping you unaware of what is actually out there. Because if you tap into those resources, that are already there, because they're already there. I believe everybody on this earth has a skill or a talent that only they can perform. Only you are capable of performing that skill or that talent, and that's why you're on this earth. But most people are too busy living in survival, and they can't even tap into the skill or talent that God gave them because they're too busy just trying to survive. Yep, operating in disobedience because God doesn't want. Exactly. You're tracking. You're understanding. So if God already gave you, oh, you think that's you? You know what God told you to do. You know what skill he gave you, right? And if you trust the God that's your source, think of John 15, where he says, I am the vine and you're the leaves. You can't grow except for me. So if you trust that God is your source and you're not willing to trust the skills that he gave you, so the parable of the talents, I know I'm mixing a bunch of Bible stuff up all in one, but it all links back to the same concept. He gave you the skill. He is the source of that skill. And he's designed you specifically to use that skill to, number one, to help people. Because that's the important part. He didn't just give it to you because you're supposed to profit from it. You can profit from it because it's divinely yours, and he wants you to have a life that is exceedingly and abundantly more than you can ask or think, right? He designed you to have a good life through the skill and the talent that he gave you. But so many of us are stuck in fear of, what if I'm not enough? What if I missed it? I don't know how to do it. I don't understand it. Like there's so many questions that are wrapped around it that really all you need to do is just take action. You see all these people talking about post the content. When you give, yep, that is true. When you give to help someone else, he always gives it back to you 100%. But like, just to take a simple example, everybody's talking about is tons of people on this, but millions of people on this app. And there are people who have figured out how to monetize it and make money off of it. And then you got the people that just scroll. There will always be people that are going to just scroll. But the question is, are you ready to utilize the talent that God gave you to post the content? And I'm not saying you got to be a content creator. I'm just giving an example right here, just to help you understand and conceptualize what God is trying to say and how he's speaking. You're too busy being afraid of doing the work, but he already called you to it. That's why he gave you the skill. That's why he gave you the talent. And once you step into actually working it, the people come. Every single time. Every single time. If you work the process, because the process doesn't change. What changes is what you think up here. How you feel about what you're doing will always be indicative of the results you get. So if you're doing it with a mindset that says, I don't know if this is going to work, guess what? It's probably not going to work. But if you trust the God who gave you the skills and said, God, you told me to do this. And so because I'm stepping out on faith with your blessing based on the skills you gave me, I trust that the people will be there. Guess what? They're going to show up. They ain't got no choice, because God is not a liar. He is not a man that he would lie. And if he said, this is the life that I want you to live, which we spelled that out in scripture, he wants you to be abundant. Was it Philippians 4:19 where he talks about he will provide all of your riches provide you according to his riches and glory, right? He talked about that he gave you the skill, and the men that turned the skill around and duplicated it were the ones that he blessed, that he gave them more, right? He gave them more because they didn't bury it. They didn't pretend it didn't exist. They utilized it. These are all biblical examples of why God wants you to live a life of wealth, to live a life of freedom, and how he will show up in the process. But it's a trust exercise. Do you trust me enough to let me show up for you? Or are you going to stay in lack, stay in fear, and think that everything is going to be okay? Or stay in lack and stay in fear and don't take any steps? Because that's the other side that I've seen. So many people get frozen here and they try to overthink the process, overcomplicate the process, and then wonder why 5 years goes by and they're still in the same place because they just didn't take the first step. So let's see, let me get back on my notes. So James 4:17 says, if anyone knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is a sin for them. Just backing up, if you're poor or in poverty and you know that God didn't call you to live in poverty, and you know that he called you to utilize your skill or utilize your money for more than just paying bills, and you don't do it, you're walking in sin. That's his word. That ain't me. Sorry, I don't shoot the messenger, y'all. I'm just reading what the Bible says. It was a revelation to me when I realized this. I sat down one day and I was like, wait, so you mean to tell me that being broke is a sin? But why? But then there's so many broke people, and that's not to say that they won't walk into heaven. Like, I'm not somebody to judge anybody and say you won't walk into heaven, anything like that. But sin means to miss the mark. And if you have the teaching and you have the knowledge of what you're supposed to do and you still don't do it, you're missing the mark. And that's just the simplified version. Like, to me, that's the way to simplify it. Because I think a lot of people also get really wrapped up in sin. Yep, it's a mindset. Exactly. People get wrapped up in sin, thinking that, like, if I'm sinning, I'm going to hell, or if I'm sinning, I'm not right with God. That isn't actually what he said. He said, because we're all human. We are all human, and we all miss the mark. But when we do, and once we have the knowledge of how we're missing the mark, that's where God comes in and says, okay, you confess your sins to me and I'll forgive you. So and you'll repent and turn away. Repent literally means to turn away, to cut it off, to not go back. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's such a cute. Oh, thank you. I've never seen that one. That one's cute. But yeah, so when you are repentant of your ways, you are cutting yourself off from your old you. So this is what's happening. You have awareness of who the old you was, and now you're stepping into the new you, and you are making a decision from here forward to never look back. That old you is about to die, essentially. Decision means to cut off or to cut from. So you are dying. The old you is dying, and you are moving forward into the new you, and you have made the decision that you will not turn back. So what do you already know to do financially that you've been avoiding? Oh, I'm so glad. I'll be honest with you, y'all. I didn't know what I was going to teach on today. I pulled up some notes and I was like, well, what do I want to teach on? I know when I'm operating from the Spirit of God, put it that way. And I don't say that like in a, like, ooh, look at me. I genuinely was like, I'm going to go live today, but Lord, I don't know what to talk about. And he just dropped in my spirit. He said, poverty is a sin and people don't know it. You need to talk about it. And I was like, oh, we going there today. Got it. So I'm so glad that I listened and that I honored God, because he's the one who said that this is the message for today. Not me. I had no idea. But what do you already know to do financially that you've been avoiding? You don't have to tell me. You can just ponder it later. I ask the questions because this is how God deals with me. He'll give me a question and I'll be like, what? Why are you asking me this right now? Like, there are moments where I'm like, really? Right now? I'll be working. And I'm like, why are you dealing with me about this right now? The question was, where'd it go? What do you already know to do financially that you've been avoiding? If you know the answer, you can put it in the comments. If you are unsure, put it in your back pocket, and I suggest you journal it. I'm a big proponent of either journaling with a notebook, which I'm in my kitchen table right now, so I don't have my notebook next to me. But I have a notebook by my bedside table. I have a notebook in my office. And if I just happen to be out and about and I don't have a notebook, I will speak to my notes app. Because if I have a question like that that's coming to mind, I'm like, oh, that's something I need to deal with. And I need to, and I might not always have the ability to, in that exact moment, to deal with it. But on the other side of it, if I follow through and ask myself the question, there's breakthrough on the other side. It never, without fail. Every single time I follow through and I'm honest with myself, there's breakthrough on the other side. So being broke isn't about your bank account. It's about your mindset, which we've covered. I'm getting back to my notes so that I can make sure I'm teaching you all accordingly. So poverty teaches you to fear money, to reject wealth, to worship survival. But God's design is stewardship and overflow. Stewardship is management of your household. That's what it means. That's the simplest way to break it down. How am I managing everything within my household? And it's not just money, once again. As I was in the process of purchasing this home, and as I was healing through some things, God began to deal with me about stewardship. And it had nothing to do with finances for me. It had everything to do with how I was managing the little things, like cleaning up the kitchen, making sure things were put away in the correct space, making sure that my home was presentable. And I'll be honest, and I'm not a nasty person. I don't like nasty, but I can get really focused on what I'm doing and I can be cluttered. And God was like, you will not take that into the next place. And he dealt with me on it. He began, and y'all, I'm a single mom and I have 3 kids. When you got kids, you got clutter. There's just not anything that you can always do about it because kids are going to be kids. They're going to make a mess. They're going to spill things. They're going to walk away and move on to the next thing without cleaning up the last thing because that's kids. And I have young children. So I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. So it's double duty. And when I say he began to deal with me about that, you don't get to go to bed until that kitchen's clean. You don't get to go and rest until you picked up that mess that was over there. And I was angry about it. Not gonna lie, I was angry. I'm tired. I've been working all day. I've been running around with these kids. I've been insert whatever excuse, right? And he was like, this is not gonna happen because you're not gonna take a poverty spirit into the new place. Because and uncleanliness in particular, and I'm not saying everybody who lives in poverty is unclean. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that uncleanliness is a lack mentality because it means you're not stewarding over the things that God gave you. You're not taking care of them. And so he was like, no, you don't get to get the big house and then not take care of it. You are going to steward it, and you're going to start here. You're going to start right now. And I had to do it. I ain't like it. It took me a minute to like it. Once I started to implement it, that was when I started to have an appreciation for it. Procrastination, absolutely. It's procrastination is the way I look at procrastination is the way I look at procrastination is I don't trust myself to do the work. I don't trust that I have the skills to or the focus to. And so to me, I look at it as a limiting belief of I won't even be able to stay on top of it until I absolutely have to. It does go back to mindset. I do know that there are people out there that, because I have two children who are on the spectrum. They have ADHD. I won't say the spectrum, but they have ADHD, and procrastination is really hard for people with ADHD. And so I understand that there are some medical limitations, and I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm just talking about what I've had to live through with my life. But what I do know and what I have seen is that ADHD can also be a trauma response. The procrastination that comes with it can also be a trauma response. And it's rooted in fear. It's rooted in the what if, and not even just fear, it's more so the anxiety, because anxiety and fear, they're partners. Fear this is a true and present danger, meaning right now, my kid is ran out in the street and there's a car coming and I am scared as I'm running to go save my child. That's a true and present danger. Anxiety produces the same feelings. I'm afraid that my child is going to run out into the street and get hit by a car. And so because of that, I hover over my child and it produces the same feelings. I'm scared, I'm afraid, I'm fearful, but it hasn't actually happened. So when you are operating in procrastination, it's usually from a place of anxiety, which states that I'm afraid of what will happen if I do this right now. And so I'm letting my emotions control my response. That's the best way I can describe it. And I was the queen of procrastination too. So I'm just, don't shoot the messenger. I'm sorry. The whole cleaning of the house thing, when I talked about stewardship, it was all rooted in procrastination. What if I can't maintain it? What if I start this process and I can't maintain it because it's too much? But the other side, there's always a flip side. Well, what if I do it and it becomes a habit and it's built in and my house now looks clean and I feel better? So that's how I look at it. I hope that helped. I don't like stepping on people's toes, but I'd rather be honest with you than make you feel better. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. Let's see, I lost my spot. Yeah, so poverty teaches you to fear money, reject wealth, worship survival, but God's design is stewardship and overflow. So we talked about what stewardship looks like. It's how you manage everything, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And stewardship and discipline are partners. Discipline is your ability to be a student and always be learning. And stewardship is, like I said, God was like, you gotta attack this, to be perfectly frank, laziness, because that's what it was in me. I'm not saying you, I'm talking about me right now. This laziness of not wanting to clean up and reset your house to rights because you're too tired. You're too tired, but I gave you this house to steward over, and you lack the discipline to do the right thing and make sure it's neat, make sure it's clean, make sure it's safe for your children. Because that was really what it boiled down to. Whether or not, even though it was clutter, it wasn't nasty, it was clutter, it was toys. It was, I'll be honest, there were a couple times it was just a piece of paper I didn't feel like bending over to pick up. Or those dishes will be there in the morning, we can wash them in the morning, but then you get bugs, right? Like, it's all of those things. They all add up, and it's not fully nasty because, yes, the dishes can sit in the sink and it's okay, but then you have the consequences of not doing the thing when you were supposed to do it. The consequences, the bugs, the flies that I hate. Cause I be on live and I don't have them too bad, but there'll be times to be on live and be like, just bat that flies, and I'm like, sorry y'all, the kids let a bug in. But you know, like, it's your lack of discipline is letting your feelings be in control. And be well with Mimi, you're right. Follow the plan, not the mood, because your mood will always change. Your mood will always change. That mood 5 minutes from now will be completely different. I don't feel like doing it right now. Do it anyway. And when you, but also, and I know a lot of y'all are just coming in, but that goes back to what I was talking about, what I learned working in corporate America. As an accountant, the plan is to make sure you understand where all the money's coming from, right? Understand not where it's coming from and where it went. The financial analyst, their job is to forecast it out based on the goals and make sure that we are moving towards the goals we set out. There are always going to be times where you feel or where the business is not looking like it's going to perform based on what you planned. But do you think that business is going to stop being in business because the plan is not going the way they planned it? I guarantee you it's not. They are going to proceed on and they will reforecast. If they miss the mark of the plan, okay, well then next quarter, next month, next year, whatever, we are going to reforecast based on what we did and figure it out. Because that's what businesses do. That's how they stay in business. That's how they continue to make money. They didn't let what it looked like stop them from being the business that they are. So why are you letting your feelings stop you from being the person that God called you to be? Y'all, I felt like I just attacked myself. Sorry. I felt convicted, and I'm teaching. I'm like, ooh, Jesus, what's happening right now? So my life might be for me, but I hope y'all got something out of it. All right. What are the steps that we need to break free? When we're talking about financial stewardship, because that's what my whole platform is all about, is teaching women how to step out of paycheck to paycheck and survival mode and step into financial freedom. So everything for me is always going to tie back to your mindset and how you think about and interact with money. And then what are the actionable steps that you can take to live a life of financial freedom. And these are the things that they don't teach you in school. People who are financially free, they either have parents that taught them or they sought out how to become wealthy by understanding the real purpose of money. So the real purpose of money is not to be spent. It is to be utilized to make more money. So if you are spending the seed and not investing it back, you are basically not stewarding your money well. So how do you do that? You start by building an emergency fund. Only 29% of people in the US can handle one emergency coming up and not be financially in chaos. 29% of all Americans can handle a financial emergency if it happened right now. And not put it on a credit card. Number two, not be in financial chaos if it happens. Do you know what the cost of one financial emergency is based on that statistic? Put it in the comments if you know. I'm curious. I would love to see some guesses because I feel like most people don't actually know. No clue. It's $400 to $1,000. And they would be in financial chaos. That's tires or a battery going out or the refrigerator breaking. One emergency and financial chaos. Only 29% of Americans can handle that. You don't have to answer here, but I'm curious. Do y'all have the ability to handle a financial emergency today without putting it on a credit card and being able to go on about your day as if nothing changed? If you don't, then this message is for you. These next steps you need to listen to. They're important. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is you need to prioritize you. Above them bills, above them kids, above everything you think is a responsibility that is greater than you, you're going to start prioritizing you. And that means you're going to pay yourself first. I don't care. You can pick the amount because at this point you're building a muscle. I don't care if I say minimum start with $5 a week. If you can, cut out a cup of coffee. Because that's about what $5 a week amounts to. Build the muscle, because whatever you do for 21 days becomes a habit. So if you build the muscle to build an emergency fund and say, I don't care what happens, every week I am going to put $5, $15, $100, whatever that number looks like for you, aside for my emergency fund, that is the first step. Because if you have that emergency come up, and you're in financial chaos, you're already behind. You are already behind. Because last month my battery went out on my car. And I was not prepared. I mean, I was financially prepared, but I wasn't prepared for me to literally got out the car from running an errand to going back to go take my daughter to her appointment, and the car wouldn't start. It just worked. So I was not prepared for the battery to go out. I'll be honest, that battery was under warranty, but I think brand new it would have cost me $250. I had the $250 in the bank, so it wouldn't have been a problem. But most people, a battery goes out in their car and they're scrambling. 29% of Americans, only 29% of Americans can handle that emergency. And that's $250. We haven't gotten into where the month before I had 2 nails in my tires. And I needed new tires for my car. And they were already, I'll be honest, I was trying to put it off because I knew I was about to move. And I was like, I don't really want to spend this money on tires right now because I want to be able to do some things in my new house, and I'll do the tires afterwards. Well, 2 nails in 2 tires. Guess who had to buy new tires when she didn't want to? Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're not in the 29%. That's awesome. That is amazing. But I had to go buy, it was about $600. I have a minivan, so it was like $600 that I didn't really want to spend, but I needed to. Only 29% of Americans can do that, and I didn't have to put it on a credit card. So like that's kind of the things that you think about. These are everyday life things that happen that most people are stressed if they have to manage it. And I don't want you to be that, because it keeps you in survival. It keeps you in fear. It keeps you running I think they used to call it the rat race. I don't know ages of people on here, but I remember where they would talk about running that rat race, just trying to hustle to your next dollar, right? But you don't have to live that way. You can prioritize yourself. You can pay yourself before you pay everybody else, and show that, number one, you matter. Because I think a lot of the women I deal with, They think that everybody above them, but the truth is it's you above everybody else. There's a hierarchy to things. What do they tell you on an airplane? Put your oxygen mask on first, then help others. Why? Because if you can't breathe, how you gonna help them? Same concept. You are more important, because if you are stuck and you can't help yourself, how you gonna help your kids? How you gonna help the other family members that may come around that need something? Oh, you said it backwards? Okay. So you need the emergency fund built. Am I reading that correct? So you don't, if a battery or tires go out, then you wouldn't be able to cover it. And I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. Okay, gotcha. Okay. And then Miss Jackie, you said you pay yourself with gifts, with money, and you already have money already saved. That's good. So you already have your emergency fund built. You have 3 to 6 months of bills in the bank. Okay. So if you're talking about getting to a place of financial freedom, the first step is to get $1,000 in the bank. That's the first step. And that's to cover those emergencies. Step number 2 is to then pay off any high interest debt. And I say high interest, I'm talking credit cards. I'm talking if you have like a ridiculous car note because your credit wasn't good, something like that, where the interest rates are ridiculous. You've got to focus on that. And the reason I say that is because everything that comes after that, it's not going to matter if you're paying out all of what you're earning from prioritizing yourself into high interest debt. So I'm not talking about like a mortgage. I'm not talking about a regular car note. I'm talking about, personal loans, credit card debt, things like that. You have to pay that down first because those are usually at high interest rates. Credit cards run at about 29% interest. If you got a good introductory rate, awesome. But eventually the annual percentage rate of that credit card is like 29%, which means that even if I teach you how to invest your money appropriately, the stock market grows pretty steadily, but it only grows at 8 to 10% per year. And if you're paying out 29% in interest year over year, then you're never going to close the gap. So that's step 2, always. An emergency fund to cover those random one-off emergencies. Then you tackle your debt. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Dave Ramsey is really good at talking about the debt snowball, but it really depends on you. So the debt snowball, as he says, attack your highest interest rate first, and then slowly snowball it, whatever payments you're making into the next highest, so forth and so on. So you pay the minimum on everything, and then you pay anything extra on the highest interest rate until that one's gone. But there are some people that are like, attack the smallest balance. That way you feel like you're accomplishing something, and then you can move from there. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I'm happy to talk about it, but the main thing is you've got to get the spending under control and stop paying out all the interest on the high yield credit cards. Once those balances are in check, and you don't have, and you're not paying out your high interest rate stuff, this is when you can begin to really invest. And by invest, I mean, you can do something as simple as putting your emergency fund money into a high yield savings account. What that high yield savings account does is, instead of you letting it sit in your bank account and grow at 1 to 2% interest per year, you can now get 3 to 5% on average. So you're getting more interest per year. In that process, once your credit card debt is paid off, then you can start building towards 3 to 6 months of savings in the bank. So 3 to 6 months of bills. So whatever you need to keep the house running. So that's car, that's rent, mortgage, that's food, that's gas, that's literally, like I said, if you lost your job today and these are the things that I need to be able to keep going without losing stability, that's what you need to save in the bank for 3 to 6 months. 3 months if you're single, 6 months if you've got dependents. That's just finance. Like if you talk to anybody who talks personal finance, that is the recommended amount. Everybody says it. I'm not speaking anything that nobody in the personal finance arena doesn't say. You can, in that process, you can start to invest some of the money that you were paying on those credit cards to paying off the payments. You can start investing those in the market. And there are very easy ways you can do it. It doesn't cost you a bunch of money. It doesn't cost you a lot of stress because you don't have to know what you're doing. There are apps like Acorns. I use it all the time and I invest my money weekly into there. There are invests like, SoFi? I use Acorns, but there are other ones out there that are similar. SoFi is another one. You can use investment accounts like E-Trade or Robinhood is another one. Those are all accounts that are low barriers to entry that all you have to do is set up the account. And I recommend Acorns to start because it's easy. You don't have to know what you're doing. You go in there and you tell them, I want to invest X amount of dollars per week into my account. They will link it to your bank account and they will auto draft it every week. And they will invest the money for you into a money market account. And they will ask you, what is your risk tolerance? Are you low risk? Are you medium risk? Are you high risk? Low risk is I want the safest upon the safest of investments. But remember, low risk, low reward. Medium is I'm not super risk adverse. I just want to balance it out. I'm okay with some volatility, but I want it to be mostly stable. Same thing. The higher the ability you're willing to risk, the more you can gain from it. And then aggressive is I'm okay with some riskier investments because I'm going to get a higher payout from it. Once you tell them the risk tolerance you have, they do the rest. You don't have to think about it. You just have to make sure that the money's there every week. And if it's not, no problem. They won't pull it because the money has to be in the account before they'll pull it. So it's low risk for you because you don't ever have to worry about them overdrafting an account or anything like that because they'll only pull it if the money's there, but it's autopilot. And autopilot for things like this are your friend because it's just automatically going to go there. And I'll be honest, I tend to forget about the account. I see it come out when I look at my bank statements, but I forget it's there. And then every once in a while when I go check and see how it's doing, I'm like, ooh, that's a nice little bit of money. I paid for vacations doing this because the money is liquid, meaning it's accessible. All I have to do is, it does take some planning. If you're doing like accounts like this, it does take planning to cash out, but within a week I can have my money. So if I want to go on vacation, if I plan it accordingly, I can say, you know what, sell X amount. I want this amount of money. Sell it. They'll sell it and they'll transfer it back into my bank account. I went to Mexico last year with my Acorns account. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to save or budget. I was like, ooh, I got enough money to cover this trip. Awesome. Let me go cash it out. And I had a good old time, a little me-cation away from my kids because I needed a break. So that's the easiest way to do it. There are more ways that I won't say require, that allow for you to invest. Say you want to invest in the stock market. So if you want to just buy shares of stock, you can just go into that's where that Robinhood account or the E-Trade or the Charles Schwab or the Fidelity, if you have any of those types of accounts, You can say, I'm going to transfer $100 in and I want to use that $100 to buy this stock, and this stock. Or, $20 for Apple, $20 for Nvidia, and $20 in a REIT, right? A REIT is a real estate investment trust. Those are all types of stock that are basically doing well right now. So that's free game for you. In particular, I would say Nvidia is one that I'm investing in actively right now, and REITs in general. Do your research. If you want something that pays dividends, O is a good one. There are others out there. It just depends on what your goal is. But I just wanted to give you the tools and give you the baseline. So the plan is, you are first off getting out of survival mode and investing in yourself first. The next step is to pay off all that debt if you have it. I'm not saying you do. If you have debt, pay off all high interest debt. And step 3 is start investing. The fourth way that you can begin to break free from survival mode and out of poverty is you can start a business. So 3 and 4 you can do simultaneously. That just depends on what your end goal is. My end goal was to be transformational to people, so I chose to teach people with the knowledge that I have. I chose to start the business. I do the investment side too. You can do both. It's not either or. It's if and, right? And the business is the way to step out of what I call the job mentality, which is just over broke. So if you're living just over broke and you're tired of it, living that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, this is where starting the business is. Instead of investing 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week into someone else's vision, I'm going to invest whatever time you're willing to give to your business to get the growth you want. I probably invest just as much time growing my business as I do in my day job until I get it to the place I want it to be. Then I'll just flip over into my business. But everybody's different. Everybody has different levels that they want. I help, for me, as it relates to what I do, like I said, I help women step out of survival mode and stop living paycheck to paycheck and teach them how to invest their money well. So just as a throw out to you all, if there is anybody who wants to join my Discord community, it's almost ready. I'm just getting all my tiers together so that you all understand what you're joining the community for. But it's going to start with mindset first. Then you'll be able to move up into financial freedom. So there's 3 different levels to it, because I'll be honest, if this isn't together, all the stuff that I was talking about before we started talking about what the plan is, if this isn't together, you will never be able to do the rest. You will always sabotage it. Always sabotage it, because you don't have the ability to hold on to the freedom and step out of the poverty thinking. So I'll always work with you on mindset, and then I will help you build your emergency fund and get yourself to a place where you're stable. And then from there, we start attacking how do we invest our money so that we can step into a wealthy lifestyle. And wealth to me is not just money. It's not just money. So if that's something that you're interested in, let me know. I think that this is a community that will really help a lot of women. But y'all tell me in the comments, is that something that you would want to work through, where we work together to get this together and then to get our money right? Because that's the talent God gave me. That's what he called me to do. You're interested? Okay. I'm noting that. DM me that way. Or the other thing you can do, you can either DM me and I'll send you the information, or you can go, there is a link in my bio that if you get on my email list, once it's ready, I can just email you when I email everybody else. So either one works. I'm okay with a DM. I'm okay with you just getting on the wait list. Either one is it's up to you. But that's really what I feel like God has called me to do, and I think what I'm speaking on is resonating with people. So that's what we'll do in the community. In the community, there will be those questions that I asked today. There'll be challenges and questions that you can work with to help you heal. There will be I'll have PDFs that are available to help you lead through. Some of the things I'm building out in the community will be AI prompts to help you get your mindset together. These are prompts that I've worked through myself through my process. Once you start getting into what I call the financial freedom side of it, it's going to be stock tips. It's going to be, how do I invest my money to make it grow? How do I look at, I'm not somebody who knows how to look at tickers, but I'll give tips on, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm investing today. These are stocks that are doing well. If you want to invest in it, this is something you can buy. There's articles out there that I've done the research on that are talking about what investors are doing today. So that's the type of community that I'm building for women who really want to get wealthy. I will be doing coaching for those within my community. So not necessarily always one-on-one. I may offer one-on-ones within my community. But I will definitely do group coaching where we do weekly, where we talk. We get on a Zoom call and we'll talk, and you can ask me questions directly. And I'll give you answers and we'll work through it. And like I said, I think I'm going to offer one-on-ones, but it's going to be for a specific tier. But that's what the community is going to look like. So if that's what you're interested in, I'm getting it together. It's 2/3 of the way there, but I like to let y'all know what's coming. There'll be, like I said, the wait list is going. And I can't wait to see you all in there. What I'm really looking forward to most is interacting with you all face to face. Like live is cool, or, talking to you all through the chat is cool, but I feel like it's a different level when you can actually have a conversation with somebody. I feel like that's been where I get the most growth for me personally, is being able to, my therapist said this to me, and I asked her a couple of weeks ago, I said, why is it that when I try to walk through my sitting with my feelings and healing by myself, it's always so hard, but then I get on here with you and I talk through it and it's so much easier. And she was like, because the human experience is meant so that we can be seen, heard, and understood, so that we can be held. And when somebody is there holding our feelings with us, the healing experience is greater. And so my heart is that as we are working on our mindsets, as we are healing, you'll be able to have that interaction with me and be able to go deeper and go to a different level, because I'm there to hold your hand. Something about having somebody there to metaphorically hold your hand in a human interaction, just, it hits different. So that's my prayer for you all. But I hope that what we talked about really helped you to understand why poverty is just a mentality that you can shift out of, that it's a mindset that you can choose to step away from, and you don't have to essentially be living in the sin of poverty because you know better now. That's really all I got for now. I'm about to go cook dinner for these kids. But I hope y'all have a great night, and I hope that this blessed you. If it did, feel free to follow me. DM me if you want the Discord community information, or go to the link in my bio and get on the wait list. But y'all have a good night. I'll talk to y'all soon. I'll probably be back live either tomorrow or Tuesday. I haven't decided which day, but I'll be back. Bye, y'all.